Hey, everybody. Welcome to the UCM podcast. I'm Dr. Bill Davis. Welcome all you doctors and students to this podcast for today. As always, we're going to be bringing you some information to help you and your practice grow. If you like this podcast, please subscribe. Please share it with your friends. Please like this episode wherever you're watching it or listening to it. My guest for today is Dr. Justin Brown. Very excited to have you back on the podcast. Welcome, Dr. Brown.
Hey, Dr. Davis, thanks so much. Always a pleasure to be a part of anything you're doing to help upper cervical doctors expand our mission, get the word out, grow practices, make bigger impact. So thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. So anybody out there that doesn't know you, Dr. Brown, please share a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm a chiropractor. I mean, I love serving people with chiropractic and developing chiropractors, certainly promoting above that inside out lifestyle, helping people overcome conditions, but you're really just kind of maximizing the innate potential through a clear nerve system. So yeah, I've been at this almost 20 years now, which is kind of crazy to say at this point. Yeah,
Yeah.
almost 20 years. We've built a large family practice here in South Florida, in Coral Springs, Florida, which is on the East Coast side of South Florida, and we've got an amazing team. Big into making sure we're educating and delivering super high quality nuca care and delivering lifestyle enhancement around that as well. Everything around nutrition, fitness, mental state, sleep quality. So we do a lot of empowerment. We have an entire dedicated empowerment center, but really just a big vision of creating the world's healthiest families. So that's what we're about. Our lifestyle is completely congruent with that, which is heavy into fitness, heavy into freedom, heavy into against the grain. Three amazing daughters, an incredible wife who's 1,000% on board. Sometimes even stronger than I am. Regarding these principles and these values and this lifestyle, and then all the benefits that come along with this lifestyle. Like just so many massive benefits. Like we're just grateful so much to chiropractic and all the people that have come before us, and the people that were mentors for us and continue to be mentors for us. But just extremely grateful for this beautiful thing, chiropractic, and that God brought us into chiropractic. And we just look at our lives and we look at our family and we look at our friends, and we're just overwhelmed with gratitude for everything that this life has provided. And so our goal is to just kind of maximize it and to share it with other people and develop other people, to be able to help certainly the families in our community, but also other chiropractors, and make sure that students, and to perpetuate these principles that have had such profound impact on us, so that this thing continues to grow, and that that whether regardless of where these chiropractors are in the world, that they're able to share this message and be able to influence their communities in a way that we've been able to. So chiropractic's given us way beyond anything we could have ever dreamed of. Never in my wildest imagination could have I ever thought, I'd be sitting here right now with the team that we have, with the families that we have. Uh, I just last weekend attended the wedding of the son of my very first patient, and he is in Life College right now, training to become an upper cervical chiropractor.
Very cool.
And now I've committed to him that I'm going to be going back, mentoring him and the people, the group of small group of committed people that are going to be learning upper cervical at his school. And so we're going to, invest heavily and put our time and our energies into, continuing this thing that's had, just it's been amazingly rewarding. So yeah, we're fired up. We're excited, and we're part of a lot of groups that are in upper cervical, but we're part of groups that are outside of upper cervical. We're part of groups that are doing big things, and we just know that we have to keep going bigger, and that there's a lot of people that are counting on us to continue to grow. We're building and developing people, and we're building and developing places that perpetuate all these principles that I just discussed.
Awesome. Yeah, that's very cool. Full circle moment, like you said, and coming all the way around with that, with your one of your first patients, kid going through chiropractic school. So I want to go back to something you mentioned about the mission. And you mentioned that your mission is to create the world's healthiest families, which I love. I love that mission. Can you talk more about that? How does that perpetuate what you do? How does that focus the team? And really even some of the things that you're doing in the community. How is your mission? What drives you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we love having that clarity of vision, and it's simple, it's memorable, and it makes decision making simple. Anything we do, it's like, okay, we just got out of our quarterly meeting, and we were having a bit of a discussion, a heated discussion about a particular system that we have and how we serve our people. And it's ultimately like, what's going to help us continue to create the world's healthiest families, create more of them,
Mhm.
right? And it's like, that's the filter we pass any decision through. Like, does this allow us to serve more people?
Right.
And, at the quality of, at our world-class standards? It's either a yes or a no. And so it really makes life simple. I like to create systems that make life simple, make it easier to make decisions and move forward. Being relentless, being decisive, being organized, being prepared. That's how we like to operate. So we literally just broke everything down inside of all of our systems and created new SOPs for like every piece. I just recently attended the Vault with Patrick Bet-David, and he had a guest, Will Garderian, who built 11 Madison Park, which is ranked the world's #1 restaurant, right? And he's got an incredible book, but called Unreasonable Hospitality. Think about that, unreasonable hospitality. And he was like, look, you need to dissect every touch point of every experience for every person that comes into your office, right? And so it's like, we did that, and we're breaking things down. We're finding so many holes. I've noticed over the years that like there's this game of phone tag where like I'll say something to one person and they say something to another person. That's happened with different people, with different trainings happening over a number of years. And all of a sudden we end up, in Indiana when we were, supposed to, end up in Illinois. And it's like, well, they're different. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
so we got off track, maybe 1 or 2 degrees, but that 1 or 2 degrees over thousands of people, starts to have a big impact. So we're just like dissecting every piece into like, how do we definitely create that product that when someone comes into our office, it's completely unique. It's different. It's different in a great way, right? Like it's not hard to be better than the average doctor office. You know that. Like the average
Right.
doctor office is a disgrace. It's
Yeah.
disgusting. It's dirty. It's not about the patient. It's about insurance. It's about charging people for as many services as possible. It's about making them a number and not a human. It's oftentimes about the system, right? It's just the medical matrix is not really people focused, and
Yeah.
so it's easy to be better than that. And but to be great and to actually deliver a product that it just elevates family, it elevates the way that literally children are looking at going about their health. Like we want to get in the minds of children, right? So we want generational health.
Yeah.
That's what we're creating. We want to create generational health, which is exactly what we did for Josh. Josh thinks differently, and that's why he's in chiropractic school right now.
Yeah.
Um, there was we were at a wedding that was 3.5 hours away from here, and we had 16 patients there. I mean, like they don't even live here anymore, right? But these people, but all of them came up to me and were telling me about their chiropractor because it's not about us; it's about the principle. It's about the fact that no matter where they go, they're going to get chiropractic care. It's
Right.
not about our personalities that they love who we are. It's about like they're like, no, wherever we go, we're going to get chiropractic care. Our kids are going to get chiropractic. So we were talking about them. We were talking about their kids. I mean, so you start to look at those type of things, and it's like that's a reminder that we are making an impact. It's also a reminder that, man, there was another 70 people there that weren't getting chiropractic. So why didn't we get to them? So I'm also looking at that side of things. Like, why did a large portion of those people come, but why did a even larger portion not come yet? And then how do we get to those people? So I mean, I know that was a long answer, but yeah, in the
No, I
end,
get
clarity is a great accelerant. If everybody understands, look, we're creating the world's healthiest families. Yeah, we're into kids. We're into talking to Dominic about his pitching arm, and like he wants to be an MLB player. And then we've got these people that now we're doing these workshops on mental well-being. Mental health is such a big deal. And BJ talked about clearing out the jails, clearing out the mental asylums. Like we're like, look, we need to do that. Like we need to talk about that. We need to be bringing those people into the office. People, there's no food in the grocery stores. Like you can go in the grocery store and you can fill up your grocery cart and there's no food. It's just this processed stuff that has zero to do with food. I mean, everything's GMO. Everything's been manipulated away from where what it is intended to, out of healthy, fertile soil. And it's like, so you could go weeks without eating food. So it's like, what's going to happen with the gut biome? And like, so how does that relate to brainstem, vagus nerve, digestive function, finding like real sources of food? So like, we need to talk about that stuff. Like, look, you could be an amazing adjuster, but like your people could be super sick. And so if we're talking about creating healthiest families, like we have to address that. And I'm not selling supplements. I'm not, before you get off on, all the haters out there. It's not about that. What it's about is it's about delivering value. Because look, the medical doctor's not going to do it. The wild, wild west of the internet, everybody's got opinions, but it's like we are uniquely positioned to deliver quality, empowering information that will make a difference for the health of these people that are trusting us to deliver that service. So yeah, so we are we're fanatical about it. We are fanatical about it, and we deliver it. I did a Movement is Life workshop this week because we need to talk about that. And then we brought in all these strategies from Atomic Habits and about how to build healthy habits. And if people continue to have the same stressful repeated actions that created their subluxations, but we're not addressing them, then honestly, we're kind of like the pharmaceutical industry that just wants to keep, patients for life and actually never wants a true correction. You know what I mean? So like we have to look at that and be honest with ourselves about it. It's like, are we really trying to address the reason why people are being subluxated on a regular basis? Right. So that actually, is, I would say, reinforcing the principle when we can talk about like what actually causes the subluxation and what are the toxins in people's body. And like, yeah, vaccines, like you should be talking about vaccines, for those that are like, I don't need to talk about it. It's like, hey, your people are getting shot up and then you're wondering why they're getting weak and why they're having all these autoimmune issues, why they're all of a sudden having cardiac issues, why they're having respiratory issues. It's like, man, like you got to talk about it, because like, but when you do that, they're going to value you. That people are really desperate for leadership. They're desperate for people taking a stand. And I think weak leadership, I think weakness when people are just trying to be all things to all people is a way to keep, a very complacent practice, a very kind of small, comfortable practice. I never want to like get down the road, talk to my grandkids and be like, my life was awesome. I was just so comfortable. Like that's like, oh, that's gag reflex. So it's like, I think what you want to do is you're going to say I freaking took a stand, and we had a strong committed group of people. Like we had a tribe of people. Like we made an impact, and it's not we made an impact, like we're making an impact because we changed generationally how people go about health. Like we moved the needle. Like if we can just move the needle a little bit to like how people go about taking on their health, I think that's like mission accomplished.
Yeah, I want to get back to that because you mentioned that you're at this wedding for your patient and you have a bunch of your other patients there, and like you said, they what was consistent with all of them is that they got it right, like they got the big idea. Yeah. So what's some of the things that you guys do in your practice to make sure that that happens? Like, how does what, as you said, you guys dissect everything, and I guarantee that that's a big part of what you're trying to accomplish with every patient, right? Is for them to get that big idea so that everything else will kind of come together when it comes to how they envision their health and how they can be the healthiest families. So what are some of the things that you do to make sure that that happens?
I think it's relentless consistency. I mean, no two people learn the same way, and so I think I'm a huge advocate of our workshops, and so no matter what we talk about, one way or another, we're talking about the nervous system. People just generally have zero understanding of the nervous system, the influence of the nervous system. So I think everything ties back to spine nervous system ultimately. And so whether that means they're going to get it through social media, whether they're going to get it through our table talk, whether they're going to get it through our workshop, through our day 0, day 1, day 2, day 3 process, through our pre-post x-rays, through our pre-post objective measurement tools. Everybody's going to get it differently, right? And by the way, they never get it, right? I will literally, I've learned that nobody ever really gets it.
Hmm.
The moments you used to say, "Oh, my patients get it," you're doomed. It's evolving. It's never. It's ever evolving. No. Our philosophy, our perspective changes, right? Our people love right now point of view. My point of view, right? Our point of view is constantly changing. So the way I read a green book today is different than the way I read a green book a year ago or 20 years ago. I'm a different person. I'm a different man. I have different life experiences. So the way I read that hits different. You'll never read the Bible the same twice, right? The same exact passage means something completely different today than it meant 7 years ago. Like pre-kids, post-kids, right?
Yep.
Pre-marriage, post-marriage. Multiple practices, one practice. I mean, they're just everything evolves. So the time when you'll be like, "Oh, I used to educate, that was important back then, but now it's not," like you're doomed.
Mm.
It's like it's a relentless pursuit of helping people with where they're at. And again, like everybody just digests this differently. Now, obviously you understand the power of video, of ebooks, of leveraging digital, of leveraging AI, of taking people into these new mediums that just weren't available 10 years ago. So it's actually just caring. In the end, it's just caring. What do I care about? I care about these people. I care about their future. I care about them not becoming a statistic in the medical system. So when I care, I'm going to be creative to figure out different ways for people to get the big idea.
Mm.
If you truly care, you'll see how critical this is, right? Like it's a never-ending pursuit of delivering our message. And the second you get comfortable with it, the second that you get off purpose, and things will start to tank. So it's work, and it's
Yeah.
worth it.
No, and I appreciate that, because it's, every day we're encouraging doctors to grow, right? Like that's what we do all the time. Like, I mean, with this podcast, with our services, everything that we possibly do, we're trying to encourage doctors to grow, right? Grow your practice, grow yourself, grow so that you can help more people in your community. But there's so many doctors we run into that are okay. They're just happy with where they are, right? They get into this place where it's like, yeah, I'm happy with where I am. What could you say to those doctors that are at that position where it's like, you know what, I'm helping enough people.
Yeah, I would just say, remember, why you got into this. I mean, did you get into this to be comfortable? Is your target, is your ultimate target to pay your bills? Is that what makes you happy? And listen, I'm happy. I'm a happy person. Happiness is a choice. Doesn't have anything to do with the exterior environment. Happiness is who I am. Um, so I just choose to be happy. But I would say, is that really what it's about? I mean, to say like I'm just kind of comfortable at my current volume, I'm comfortable at my current level of service, I would say like, is that ultimately what it's about? I mean, certainly I don't think I or you or anybody should define what success is for any human being. Like you have to figure that out for yourself. I would also just say like, if if the chiropractor that got you into chiropractic was just kind of like rested on their laurels or just like got comfortable, maybe you wouldn't have ever had that interaction, right?
Mm,
I don't know that everybody that is in our work, was inspired through their own chiropractic experience, but I think that's probably true for a good 70 to 80% of us. I think it used to be about 100% of us, but now it's
mm,
closer to probably 70 or 80%. And what I would say is like, just remember, like you were one of those people,
mm.
you know what I mean? So like Dr. Cheskin, like if he just got comfortable and he was like, I don't need to do it, or Dr. Dick Holtz, or Dr. Yardley, or Dr. Barone. I mean, a lot of these people who really, had a big influence on me. If they were just kind of comfortable, then I don't know that I'd be the person I am now. I think I saw passion, I saw purpose, I saw what inspired them. And I don't know, I'm just not a small thinker. I'm not someone that. So anyway, I don't know, I'm probably the wrong person to ask on that. It's just not part of my DNA, it's not part of my makeup, so I'm probably just the wrong person to ask. I guess in the end it's like you got to remember like what is this for. Doesn't necessarily have to be you, but like teach other people, like
Yeah.
I'm doing maybe 15% patient care at this point, maybe 20%, but it's like, but I'm developing people. I'm out. The last 3 weekends, I wasn't with my family because I'm trying to build something bigger than self. Like I'm comfortable, man. Like I didn't need to be on an airplane the last 3 weekends, right? I totally could have been at home, like chilling, but like there's something bigger. There's a bigger calling, there's a bigger mission. There's people that need our help. So we're going to keep going big, and I don't know. I don't think I'll ever retire. It's hard for me to speak about my decisions when I'm 50, 60, 70 years old, but like, man, this is a mission. This is a life calling. This is a purpose. This is a vocation, and this is something that fuels me. It's like it's energizing. So I think like squeeze the most out of life, man. If
Yeah.
like we have these unique skills, right? We have this unique calling, like squeeze the most out of it. Just the way you are, Bill, right? You were squeezing the most out of it. You know what I mean? Like you took, devastation and made it your destiny. And you took, your situation and you're maximizing your situation. Like freaking kudos to you, right? Like
Well,
I'm sure there's other people that would have rolled over and you just rolled it up, right? You rolled it up into something bigger. Like you're like, and think about the timing of that. Think about God's timing with like how digital kind of came into being when you went through your own situation. It's like that's God's timing. You
yeah.
know what I mean? And then your background purposed you to kind of be an expert. It's just fascinating when you kind of look at all these things. So, man, I think a lot of it's really my faith. I think that's what's coming through. It's just my faith. It's bigger than me. There's a lot of people that need help, and so keep going bigger and serve. Like ultimately, it's like not about serving self as much as it is serving others.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that that was a difficult question for you to ask because you're just not wired that way, and I'm not either, right? Like I'm wired to do more. Like that's what I constantly want to do, right? I want to do more. I want to help more people. That's how I'm dialed. That's how God has wired me. And so sometimes I see with doctors, they get into this position where they know that the next step of growth is bringing on their first associate, right? Or bringing on their next associate who because they've tried before and it didn't go well, right? And
Sure.
and I know with you've had the opportunity to train lots of associates and you've trained a lot of associates who've gone on and been extremely successful in their own practices. And right now I believe you have 3 associates in the practice. And so I'd love for you to talk about that because, we still, I mean, we do surveys, we still see about 80% of practices are solo practices, right? 70 to 80% of practices are solo practices. And so, can you talk to those doctors who are, they're at that level where they're doing all they can on their own. And
Right.
the only place that they're really going to be able to make an impact and help more people in their community is if they can pour into other doctors and train more doctors. So can you talk about what is it that you found to be the key to getting going with an associate practice?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of associates, and I think maybe 25 or so. And like you said, a lot of them are out doing really great things and having, tremendous success in their communities and just doing some awesome things. So, I love that. I mean, I have great relationships with all my associates. Like, we didn't you know, use and abuse them. We honored them, we developed them, we invested in them, we take them to seminars and conferences, we train, regularly. So there's value exchange, So I think it's all about value exchange, but it also requires leadership, I love the accountability. Some people don't like accountability. Like I like accountability. So I like having multiple doctors like looking at x-rays. I like having multiple doctors managing cases. Every study shows university settings have higher quality of care because there's
Mm.
accountability. You got somebody over your shoulder that knows what you're doing or knows if you're not doing it right. So I love that team. Like I'm a team sports guy. I've always played
Right.
sports. I would never want to do this alone. I mean, I know we can go a lot further together. Energetically, it's more fun from an impact standpoint. We can just do more. We can do more events. We can, um, certain people that might really not like my personality might love another doctor's, way they communicate chiropractic and, their patience or their compassion or their touch. And so I think there's just so many reasons. There's so much benefit, but there's preparation that's necessary. I mean, to wing it is a really disservice to yourself. It's a disservice to certainly that doctor who's kind of saying like I'm committing to you, like my career to you. Like to wing it, I think is irresponsible. I think you probably should have some coaching around that. I mean, I've had coaches for 2 years in chiropractic. I had coaches while I was a student. I continue to have a coach. I also coach chiropractors on, specifically how to do this. So I think preparation is a big piece of it. There's training. There's certainly systems. Um, there's also managing energies. There's managing personalities. There's certainly management that goes into it. There's you got systems training, you've got technical training, there's accountability, there's performance reviews, there's a lot of pieces to this. So I don't think that's the purpose of necessarily this podcast, but ultimately, if your goal is to grow, if your goal is to make a bigger impact, if your goal is also to potentially create more freedom in your life. There's different seasons of life. Maybe you want to spend a little more time with family but you don't want to pull back your hours. I mean, I just, when I heard docs bragging about not taking vacation for 25 years, I was like, man, I feel terrible for your kids. I feel terrible for your family. Like,
Right.
I'm not sure that that's not the path for me. I value freedom and living, you know what I mean? And so those type of things more. And also, being able to provide that even for like associates, like they have freedom. Like, our longest standing associate, like he works 3 days a week and I mean, makes more money than 96% of the people that are watching this or listening to this.
Mhm.
So he has freedom and he's built it, he's earned it, and he's tremendously successful. So I think ultimately, you need to prepare for it. I think you should have training around it. You need to have systems around it. And mentorship, when it comes to associates, I think is really smart.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, as you mentioned before, the big vision, big mission. You hear a lot of things about, what you're doing in the impact you're making in the community. And so I know you mentioned, before we started the podcast, that you have some concerns about principled upper cervical chiropractic and some of the directions that just healthcare is going in general and how that may impact some things. So I'd love for you to be able to talk through that and discuss some of those.
Yeah, I see, the schools I think are, the place to start. And it's like, even though in my time in chiropractic, there's never been, 100% of the schools, or even maybe 50% of the schools that really uh, promote and perpetuate principled chiropractic, or the philosophy of chiropractic. And uh, I think there's certain schools that might say, well, that's the history of chiropractic. And then there's other schools that just vehemently oppose everything that chiropractic was founded on, that just absolutely um, discredit, everything that, that literally the bedrock of our profession. They just don't want anything to do with it. So, I think at this point, chiropractic schools have by and large really watered down chiropractic into an adjustment is part of a therapy that's essentially morphed into this physical therapy that happens to have maybe some angle towards the spine,
Yeah.
which is fascinating. I'm hearing of students being taught how to adjust via Zoom.
Oh, wow.
No, like real stories. And so, what we're seeing is that if people don't get the principle, and they're not, not getting the philosophy, and they're not getting the art, um, and if they're getting the science is being taught that chiropractic's based on pseudoscience, that they're
Mm.
not really being. So it's like, what is this becoming? And if that happens, generation of generation, there's going to be a small few that they have such a solid foundation coming into school that despite school, they're able to avoid that brainwashing, and they can,
Right.
carry out of school with science, philosophy, and art. But right now, they're not being told anything that, chiropractic was founded on, based on DD and BJ and principled chiropractors that have come since. So I'm seeing even some of my friends that were extremely principled at one point have started to sort of waver. And
Mm.
that's concerning to me. That's concerning to me. So that's what I was alluding to. Um, and so it's all that much more, it's that much more important that if you are a principal chiropractor, that you're getting involved, that you're getting associates, that you're going back to schools, that you're getting on Zooms, that you're getting involved with clubs. Like they're desperate for it, man. They want it. And if we don't keep our distinction and our uniqueness through our philosophy and our art, backed by our science, right? Science has a funny connotation to it these days, but like backed by like our science, it's like I'm fearful for what chiropractic will look like in the next 20 years.
Yeah, it's so true. Even when I went to school, almost 20 years ago too. It's like I went to a medically minded school that back then, and I didn't discover what chiropractic was until probably 3 months before I graduated. Right. And it's one of those things where, like you said, if a doctor who is practicing principled upper cervical chiropractic isn't engaging with schools, engaging with associates, looking to get preceptors into their practices, right? Doing all those things, then a lot of times they're not even going to hear it, especially if they're at some of these schools that aren't teaching it at all, which I was at one of those schools, right? It's
Now,
that's
Bill, did
part
you
of
learn about
that
principle
motivation.
in school, or did you have to find it outside of school?
No, I had to find it outside of school. Yeah.
Right.
I was, within, like I said, 3 to 6 months before I graduated, I was like, man, I made a terrible mistake going into
Mm.
chiropractic school. because I'm in a preceptorship in a workers' comp practice, and I was miserable. And I said, what in the world? Like, no one was ever getting better. It was the doctor hated his life, and I was like, this is terrible. And then I read Ben Lerner's book, Body by God, and then I read 1 Minute Wellness after that, and I discovered chiropractic. And then I went to an associate position where I actually was able to learn from a doctor who was doing principled chiropractic, and that changed my life. Right. So, but everyone who goes through school at a school like I went through has to find it on their own. And if we're not reaching out to them, trying to find them and try to teach them about what chiropractic actually is, then I know so many chiropractors who went through chiropractic school and aren't practicing chiropractic, probably because they never really learned what chiropractic was.
Right. Like they don't have anything to be like proud of or like to stand behind because they just don't know how to do it. I mean, they're trying to be physical therapists, which it just doesn't make sense. We're terrible physical therapists.
Right.
So,
That's right.
I think, I'm with you, Bill. I mean, I think a lot of times people are waiting. Well, who's that next Reggie? Who's that next Sigathus? Like, well, guess what? It's you. You know what I mean? Like, it's you. Like, look in the mirror. In the end, it's like in your community, like you can do your part, and not everybody's going to have, that same vision, and not everybody's going to maybe be as verbose and bold, and that's fine. But everybody has their part. You know what I mean? Like everybody has their part, and if it matters to you, again, it's like I could stay in my practice and just like be comfortable and build this, and that's fine, and that serves our own personal needs. But it's like, if you really feel called towards this thing, I think we got to get out of the walls of your office, and you got to do something that's going to make it. And by the way, you get rewarded by that. I mean, you totally do. Like, don't hear me wrong. Like, we totally get rewarded by attracting the best associates. We attract we build strong people here for a reason. But also it's give out to those people. I remember going back to Palmer, Florida, maybe 6, 7 years ago, and we did a talk, and I think like 8 upper cervical doctors came from that one talk, that are practicing today. And it's
That's
like,
awesome.
you got to be like, it's amazing, and that's the school that was giving like 0 principle. Upper cervical is just like this old thing, and there's this one guy that kind of does it, but no, you can't do it in clinic. And it was, you know what I mean? And like, that's what you're hearing. And then like something that was said, like drove all these people to seminars, and then they got locked in, and they're like, okay, this is how we're going to practice. So yeah, you never know how far reaching.
That's
So
right.
I would say, I mean, it's important.
Yeah, and that's it, man. It's really, we've got to flip the script, right? If 70 to 80% of chiropractors, upper cervical chiropractors right now are practicing in solo practices, it has to be the other way around. Like, we have to flip it
Right.
in the next 5 to 10 years. We have to have 70, 80% of doctors with associates having those training programs, being actively involved in building the next generation of chiropractors. Like you said, in order to perpetuate this, to keep this going, we've got to have people got to get out of their complacency. It's not good enough to just be good enough, right? You've got to help more people in your communities, and it starts with opening up your doors, getting ready to help other people, being a leader within your community. And so I could talk about this all day, but Doc, I really appreciate you being on this podcast today. Is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap up for today?
No, Bill, I mean, it's an awesome opportunity to share with your audience. Certainly, love speaking about chiropractic, talking about chiropractic, specifically upper cervical, and its impact. No, I would just say, whatever you're doing, make sure you're telling the truth. Make sure you're telling people the truth about what we do. That's not about that migraine or that, headache, neck pain, back pain, but teach people the bigness of what we're doing, and the power of it, and not even just from a physical standpoint, but from a mental, emotional, and social well-being standpoint. We're changing lives, we're saving lives. We've had multiple people tell us that they were planning on killing themselves before coming into our office. So he literally saved their life. People that, you know, are desperate for answers. You know, a lot of those people, like the only real answer for those people is getting their atlas adjusted and cleared. Like that's really probably the only real thing that's going to be the answer. So, you know, if you need motivation to like, you know, get out there and tell your message, like just close your eyes and think about those people that are on their hands and knees. They're praying for a solution. They're at the end. You know, they feel like they've exhausted everything that medicine has to offer. They are in agony. There's probably drugs involved. There's whether legal or illegal. There's collateral damage. Their families are being torn apart. Like, make it visceral. If you feel the pain of those people that are literally just miles around your office, right? Viscerally feel that pain and realize that you have the answer if you speak up. That should get you motivated.
Awesome. Awesome, man. I appreciate you so much. Thank you again. For anybody out there that's listening to this, I encourage you, keep going, tell the story, get associates in your practice, grow your practice, help more people, double your practice at least. Like that should be a goal for you. Help more people, help twice as many people as you're helping now, and keep going. So thank you again, Doc. Appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you.